As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do, and that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all at once. Here's how it works. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So Joe Flacco has been making the media rounds around Cleveland lately. We have made the request to get him on UCSS. We are still waiting to hear back from the Browns. But he was on ESPN Cleveland radio yesterday. He was on 92.3 this morning with Ken and Lima. And he said something interesting on both shows that kind of piqued my interest, and I'm curious your guys' opinion on this. Joe said one of the reasons he decided to come back to Cleveland, to make his return to Cleveland, was the way the fans in the community treated his family and him when he came back in 2023 and led the Browns in that playoff run. Now, go back in time to that day. The Browns were coming off the Deshaun Watson injury. They were in a quarterback carousel. There was complete uncertainty and instability at the position. Flacco won football games, went 4-1 down the stretch for the Browns, winning those final 4 games he started, including beating the Jets on Thursday night to clinch a playoff spot. So my question to you guys is this. He obviously got the most warm and receptive welcome when he came in 2023. Now with the pressure of potentially being QB1 to start the season in 2025, can he recreate that same magic he had 2 seasons ago, and will fans react to the Joe Flacco experience in the same capacity, knowing there are more expectations this time around than there were 2 seasons ago?
No, they can't. It's not going to be exactly the same. It doesn't mean people won't be excited, especially if he plays well. There's no pressure. I disagree with you on pressure. Joe Flacco's 40 years old at the end of his career. There's no pressure on Joe Flacco.
No.
If he's terrible and okay, that doesn't taint his career at all. He's had a very
But there's just a
successful
natural pressure of being a QB1 versus
You
coming
think
in
Joe
week
Flacco
13.
at 40 years old is feeling any pressure to be
On this team
that was won 3 games last year? There's no pressure on him at all. And let's be complete. I love Joe Flacco. I love what he did. Let's be fair. He's the reason. Yes, everybody treated him nicely. I mean, a bigger part of the reason that he came back is how many other teams could he have possibly started for?
Probably not many.
Yeah, so that's part of it too. But no, I don't think. I guess it's possible. Listen, if he starts putting up big numbers, but here's the thing: if the Browns draft a quarterback between 20 and 33, which I think we all think they will, there's going to be clamoring, at least from a percentage of the fan base, to play that guy at some point, whether they should or not. And so that is always there. So if Joe doesn't play great, that clamoring is going to be there. Now, if he plays great, and I know you could argue whether he played great here the first time, put up big stats, but he also, had a lot of interceptions. But he's 40 now. Mm-hmm. I think the idea of him capturing the audience like he did that time is going to be hard. It's possible, but it's going to be very hard.
I think as a 40-year-old quarterback, I think Joe, he's already won the people over.
Sure.
I think that the reason that Joe is back here is for more reasons than beyond just the football field. I think that locker room-wise, you see Joe walk into that locker room and you remember just how much fun you had. You enjoyed the game of football. He made it fun. To win was fun. You're bringing that attitude and that feeling back to the locker room. So everybody's going to be overwhelmed. Your players will enjoy coming to work, okay? Because you got Joe back. He gave you hope. And I think that's part of the reason why he's come back. But also, if you do, whether it's Kenny Pickett, whether it's they take somebody at 33, trade up, whatever the quarterback is, the best player that's ran your offense to the most to be successful the way you want it has been Joe. And these guys are going to learn how to put your back to the defense and be comfortable, how to command your huddle, how to win the fan base over, where to put the ball at for certain players, how to see the game in a different light from a quarterback's perspective. he brings all that to him. So I think his value is much more than just what we see on Sundays. It's what he's going to do for that locker room, for that team, and for those young guys.
And it's funny because since Joe left Baltimore, right, and he kind of got kicked out the door, which I get because they had Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
But since the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson, including his last year with the Ravens, the fans of the team he's been on have been like, Joe Flacco? But here it was Joe Flacco.
I don't know. Indy loved him.
They did?
Yes.
The fans?
Yes. They had the same issues last year with
because
Richardson.
they hated Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, it was the same thing.
But they weren't winning, so the excitement didn't build like it did here.
Didn't he win the first game? Then he win
I think he did.
the first
I think he did.
one
And
or
they
two.
eventually
and then
decided to play Richardson again.
There is something about Cleveland and about Cleveland fans and the fan base that they latch on to certain players, and it's a special – like Channing Frye has talked about this. Channing and Richard Jefferson both about I mean, they won a championship, obviously, but the special bond that they feel.
Yeah.
So they love coming back to Cleveland and the reception that they get every time. And, I mean, Ryan Merritt, the Indians pitcher, the one in the playoff game, in folklore.
Rajay
Davis. And Joe Flacco's in that category for just getting them to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it is special when the whole city sort of swoons for you like those guys have experienced. And so I do think that it probably played a role in him coming back. Was it the number one factor? I don't know. But if the opportunity presents itself, of course you're going to go back someplace where you're beloved.
Sure.
The only thing, and like last week I was down on it when it first happened, and I after I thought about it some more, I was like, yeah, it's fine. I totally get why they brought him back. But how many times is the sequel better than the original?
Very rare.
Very rare.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to temper expectations going in.
Yeah.
But he's 40. He's 2 years older now than he was when he was here last time. But he can run Kevin's system.
Yeah.
They're very obviously going back to Kevin's system.
Yes.
And he can run it as well as anybody.
And he talked, listen, he'll be I know there was the whole thing with Lamar. This is different. It's many years later. He'll be a good mentor for.
I don't know about that.
You don't think so?
No.
I think he will.
I don't think he has no interest in being.
He's changed his tune a little bit, Jason. I don't know if you listened to the 2 interviews he did, and this could just be lip service, but he did talk about at this point of his career, he's much more aware and in tune of where he's at in his career and what his role is. And he did say
maybe he has a good influence on DTR.
It doesn't necessarily have to be him hand walking people through this.
Leading by example.
Yeah,
right?
just being in the quarterback room, just hearing the communication. Coach is going to ask, "Hey Joe, what do you see? What are we supposed to do on this play?" Just to hear how he processes things and things like that. That helps a young guy. So it might not necessarily be him putting his arm, hey, let me teach you the ropes. It won't be like that.
I don't think
he's that type of guy.
Maybe he's totally changed, and maybe he's reached the point in his career where
possibly
where
the end is near. The end is near, and honestly, when you really look back on it, it's about it's about what you did, but how your legacy lives on is the impact that you made on other players. Before I left, I coached that guy up. He got better. So now when I'm done and I'm broadcasting, I could go watch Kenny Pickett and be like, man, I taught Kenny that stuff. Look at that, man. Like it brings just a different satisfaction. And I think, with the end near for Joe, like this is the part where you start to help other young guys because you want to see them, do well in this league.
And when he was here 2 years ago, he was still fighting for his NFL life.
Right.
That he was out, and this was an opportunity for him to come back in. And now that he's had, maybe more of the final chapter the way that he wants it, going out on his terms, maybe he's more open to it. But and I'm not saying it is a bad thing. Like some guy, he wants to compete and he wants to play. He's not interested in wiping noses and being a babysitter. And I think like when Josh McCown was here, he was the perfect guy to sort of mentor other quarterbacks. He enjoyed that role of bringing other guys
That's why he's a quarterback coach now.
And some other guys aren't wired that way. And I think Joe was here 2 years ago to compete and to win.
Right.
And he didn't care about any of that other stuff. And I don't want to make a big deal about it. The relationship between Joe and Deshaun was always very weird.
Right. But it was fine with DTR.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. DTR wasn't a threat.
Right.
At that time.
Is Kenny Pickett a threat?
I mean, I think they will have a spirited quarterback battle. We're going to talk about that all frickin' summer. That's going to be the topic.
And whoever they get at 33.
It's going to be a three-way quarterback battle in theory.
Yeah, in theory, but I think
said that today too.
I think in reality, I think it's a two-way.
Yeah.
between Kenny and Joe. Whoever they draft, if they draft in the second round, I don't think. I mean, maybe they come in and blow the doors off and shock everybody. I remember there's an interview where Kyle Shanahan said that, where after practice one day, he was talking to the owners and he said the best quarterback on the field is the kid we took last.
Yeah.
He did say that. I remember us reading about that.
And he said it probably wasn't the best thing to say when we just traded up to get the other guy.
Yeah.
But it was clear from day one, Brock Purdy was the best quarterback on the field. And maybe that happens here. Who knows? But more than likely, I think it's probably a two-way battle.
Before we get off of this topic, are y'all still in the camp of them drafting 2 quarterbacks?
No, not
They're
now.
not gonna. I can't imagine now that they have Pickett and Flacco that they would draft too. But
Because you're going
Because I know it was a big thing. Like,
Yeah.
take 2.
somebody's
Take
getting
2.
cut. You're not carrying 4.
right.
You could carry 4 to preseason.
Yeah, but but
Somebody getting cut when their 53 come out for
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
2 of
well,
them.
then
might.
you'd be cutting.
Oh no, it's you get the third. You get the emergency guy now.
Well, then you'd be moving on from Pickett, which I guess if you draft 2 quarterbacks,
I think Kenny Pickett's going to be the backup quarterback for the Browns for a long time.
for a long time.
Yeah.
You don't think he's going to try to get the start somewhere else?
Joe
One
Flacco.
of these guys that bounces from place to place to try to be a starter because he's the 30th best quarterback in the league?
Maybe.
Joe
but
Flacco will be the starter unless his arm talent is not there anymore. Then Kenny will start.
There's no way he makes it through a whole season, though, or it's unlikely.
Joe,
Yeah.
he has never done. Well, he hasn't.
Well,
done
he hasn't
it.
done it in 8 years.
I mean, as we sit here in April 17th,
Yeah.
I think Joe will be the starting quarterback. and
Unless
Kenny
his
will be
arm
the
is
backup.
shot.
In a perfect world, you draft a guy and he doesn't play unless he forces his way on the field. You don't just play. The Browns too often have played the young guy because they were like, well, we might as well play him. Not because that guy forced his way on the field.
Well, injuries have also forced him at times.
But to me, if the guy's not ready to play, I'm not playing him, injuries or not.
Well, if the other 2 guys are down, what are you going to do?
Then bring back somebody else. There's always a veteran.
Well, you're going to carry. If they draft a quarterback,
Yeah.
they're going to carry 3 on the 53.
Yep.
So then the third guy will be the emergency quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
And then you go from there.
Yeah.
But
The only thing when you talk about quarterbacks and the young guys, we have to really do a better job with the development of young guys because the DTR thing was
Not been
just,
good
it
enough.
was handled so
Yeah.
poorly.
Awful.
To this day, I don't understand what happened there.
That was so
is
bizarre.
Wild.
It just was handled poorly, and that's what scares me about them drafting
Oh, yeah.
quarterback.
They better learn from those
Y'all
mistakes or
gotta-
they're going to
if
be
they
gone.
have not cleaned that up. I hope Tommy Reese is a better guy. And who did they get? Bill
Musgrave.
Bill Musgrave.
I hope those 2 is better at development
Yeah.
because the DTR thing was a disaster.
The way
and
they talked
they
about
did
him.
him filthy.
Well, the way they talked about him and then the way he played
Yeah.
is night and day.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, I'll go back to AVP. They never should have fired AVP. Look what AVP did in New England with Drake May.
Oh, they got Joe Milton the 5th round. He went for a 5th round.
Last year was just a disaster in every way possible.
Yeah.
From the moment they fired the offensive coaches till the end of the year, complete disaster.
And they've tried to rectify
Yeah.
some of those mistakes.
Yes.
And we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see if they have.